Welcome to the Course in Miracles. Yes. 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 Could you give it up for you for being so cool? Yeah, come on now. We got our brothers and sisters on Facebook Live that are coming in. I want to thank you from all over Z-Wells for being here for the Course in Miracles. So I'd like you to take a moment to just take a breath, get centered, so that we can take this Course in Miracles ride. And don't forget that you need not believe the ideas. How good are you doing at that? You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you're going to find hard to believe. Some of the ideas are going to be hard to believe. And some of the ideas are going to be quite startling. I'm not kidding. Some of the ideas are going to be quite startling. I know sometimes people listen to me say this and go, oh, okay. Then when I say something out of this book, they go, whoa, what? And I told you that you might not believe it, you might not accept it, because I don't know about you, but I'm ready to hear something new and different, even if I don't necessarily believe it. So I'd like to ask you to listen with that attitude, that you want to hear something new, that's going to be something different. So if you want to hear something new, it can't necessarily be exactly the way you've heard it before. So I want you to open your minds, and since you don't have to believe it, what's to stop you? If you use it, you will see that it works. Believe me, it works. I've been having so many examples of it working lately that it has shaken my whole paradigm, my whole world. So we got a lot of cool people coming online right now. It's a time to love yourself. Anybody open to loving yourself? Anybody in here open to loving yourself? Are you open to appreciate yourself more? The world is a mirror, a reflection of the way that you are looking at yourself. So the easiest way to have appreciation in the world is to appreciate yourself. And you prosper when you love yourself. Is there anything you need to forgive yourself about? Would you like your life to feel good? And you can have what you want. And I want joy. This is Reverend Yolanda. The CD is called Reverend Yolanda's Country Kitchen. Welcome to the Course of Miracles, the Course in Miracles on Facebook Live. Myrna, Linda, Shirley, Arch, Melissa, Janet, Rick, a lot of brothers and sisters, a lot of mighty companions that are not necessarily in this physical space. Hundreds, as a matter of fact, join us every Sunday from all over the world. So those of you online, don't forget to comment, share, communicate with each other. That's why we're doing it live, so that we can feel that vibe. I was curious to see who was going to be here today. Every time I make a massive shift in consciousness, my class shifts. So I knew that there would be people here that maybe I had never seen before. I knew there were going to be a lot of people that normally come that I don't see. When I shift, my experience shifts. So I was curious to see who was shifted with me. So some of you all are still here. So I see that you made the shift with me, and I appreciate that. We're going to talk about in the Course in Miracles today. A section that's pretty deep. It's called Self-Concept versus Self. It's called Self-Concept versus Self. It's on page 656 in chapter 31 in the Foundation of Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the paragraphs and I'm going to see what is the message that Spirit is trying to give us through it. And be on the lookout for your particular statement. There are no such things as accidents. So if you're here, there was a reason. So there may be something that you hear today that answers some questions and some things that's been on your mind that you've been curious about. And I think that's an interesting title, Self-Concept versus Self. Think about that a minute. Your self-concept versus self. And the first paragraph says, the learning of the world is built upon a concept of the self adjusted to the world's reality. So that means you have a concept of yourself that's adjusted to what the world has taught you that your concept of yourself should be. You have a concept of yourself that has been programmed by the world in terms of how you should see yourself. And your concept of yourself fits this image well. What is the concept that I have of myself? I have the concept of myself as being separate. I have a concept of myself as being a body. I have a concept of myself as being an African American. I have a concept of myself as being a man. I have a concept of myself as being sometimes good, sometimes bad. I have a concept of myself of sometimes being innocent and not so innocent, and especially a lot of times enjoying the part that's not so innocent. I have a concept of myself as being an American. I have a concept of myself of being the son of Joe and Georgia Purdy. I have a concept of myself that includes being called a father or a brother, these different character roles that I play. In other words, your concept of yourself probably fits what the world has taught you. And the Course in Miracles says, this is an image that suits a world of shadows and illusions. And here this image of yourself walks at home where what it sees is one with it. So basically what the Course is saying is that the building of a concept of the self is what the learning of the world is for. So what is it that the world is trying to teach us? The Course says it's trying to teach you how to build a concept of yourself, an idea of yourself that fits in with what the world thinks you should be like. And it says this is the purpose of the learning of the world, which is what? That you were born without a self, and so you're going to make yourself up as you go along. And when you get to the point that you reach maturity, it just means you have perfected this idea of yourself to meet the world on equal terms at one with the world's demands. So by the time I'm grown, I pretty much completely bought into what the world has taught me about how I should see myself, to the point that I call myself what I was taught by the world to think of as myself. So I now think I am what I taught myself I am. And I think I am this concept of myself. What's really funny about this is that each one of you are doing the exact same thing to me that I'm doing to me. You are also coming up with concepts right this moment, ideas about who you think I am, what the meaning of what I'm saying. In other words, you will have an opinion of me. That opinion of me, that's your concept of me. So you're building one also. So that means there are as many different Earls as there are people sitting in the room or online that are watching me right now. Everybody's making up an idea of who they think I am and what they think I'm about. So some people might be saying, I really like you, I really trust you, I think what you're saying is valid. And then some people are going to be looking and listening to me with suspicion and wondering if they can trust what I'm saying or who I am. But we're all building concepts of ourselves. Now, one of the ways you can tell whether or not your concept is worth it is how you feel about what you think of as you. So the Course in Miracles says a concept of yourself is made by you. but your concept of yourself doesn't bear any likeness to yourself at all. So your concept of yourself isn't anything like you. You are spirit. You are a divine being. You are completely unlimited. You are consciousness. You are awareness. And you are now expressing who you are through your physical body. So you are a spiritual being having what you think of as a human experience. You're a spiritual being that thinks it is a body that's separate from everybody else walking around in the world. So you're making up the way you're seeing yourself, so you're also making up the way you feel about yourself. So the way you feel about yourself, you're the one making it up. You can say it was your mother, your father, your childhood, your past, but the truth is you always have a choice about how you're going to see yourself. So no matter what you went through as a child, no matter what you went through growing up, right now, today, you can choose how you're going to see yourself and the kind of idea about yourself that you're going to have. Everybody still with me on that? Okay. Then the Course in Miracles says, your concept of yourself is an idol. We worship the way that we see ourselves. Why do you think you spend so much time in the mirror? Right? You know, we are constant. I'm trying to make sure my idol really looks good. Right? And sometimes as I get older, I think my idol isn't as hot as it used to be. Sometimes I feel like a fallen idol. You know? So I have a concept of myself. One of the concepts of myself I have to watch out for is the concept of myself as a teacher. That's a tricky one. And the concept that people have of you is, especially a quote-unquote spiritual teacher. My God, you all have no idea what types of projections or concepts that people put on you when they think you're trying to be any kind of spiritual teacher. That usually subjects you to the most judgment that you could possibly imagine. Because people project on you that you should have attitudes and behavior that they don't come anywhere near doing themselves. And judge you for it. So I'm supposed to be perfect. I'm supposed to not make any mistakes. I'm supposed to do everything the way you think or a person would think a spiritual person was supposed to be like. And I don't even know what you think that is. So that's the problem with concepts. When you try to live up according to somebody else's expectations, you will never be free and you'll never enjoy your life. So the first thing you need to do if you want to be free is to let go of how much value you put on other people's opinions of who and what you are. Right? So we're trying to become free. And freedom is of the mind. Freedom is not of the body. The body can't be free. There's a limit on what the body can do. But your mind is completely unlimited. So if I have an unlimited way of thinking, my body has a tendency to end up where my mind focuses. My mind is focused on being here. Notice my body is. Okay? You're here. Your body is here because your mind focused on coming here. So your body is pretty much following orders at all times. Your body isn't making any decisions for you. Your body is not to blame for anything that you do. That's deep. Because most people's idea of sin and guilt is around what they think their body has said or done. As if the body is acting independently of their thinking. My body made me do it. I tried not to do it, but I had to eat that. You know, my body just made me do it. Right? So the Course in Miracles says the concept of the self, I like this, it says it's an idol. What's an idol? Something made to take the place of your reality as a child of God. Because your reality as a child of God means that you are an extension of love, that you are a totally loving being. Sometimes that's not how we think of ourselves. If you want to make people feel kind of weird, like that song I just played, where they kept saying, I love myself, you can watch people feel very uncomfortable. Even if you say anything about you should love yourself. You should focus in on us. Tell yourself you love yourself. That's the concept of ourselves that the world has taught us. It's taught us that if you acknowledge yourself and see yourself as beautiful and worthy, that somehow or another that's a negative thing. That means you're egotistical. Like sometimes when I compliment people and tell them how wonderful they are, one of the most common responses I get is that they'll say to me, oh, you really building my ego up. And I said, no. I'm building your ego up when I say you're pathetic, sad, no good, fearful, angry, and you're not worth anything. But if I'm judging you, condemning you, now that's building your ego. Telling you that you're worthwhile and that you're loving and that you're lovable and that you deserve love and that you're a beautiful person, that's building up your recognition of who you really are. But I always hear that. You're building my ego up. You're building my ego. And they think you're insincere. That's really quick, especially if you say it to more than one person. Yeah, I can only be sincere if I say you're the only one that's beautiful. Right. But the minute I say, and you're beautiful too, and you're beautiful too, and you're beautiful, you just say that to everybody. Because I really get that from women. You just say that to everybody. Yes, I said that. That's why you can believe it. Because I'm saying it to everybody. I'm suspicious of things that's only said to me. That's the special stuff that you can lose in 2 seconds, you know. And just because I appreciate you, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate other people or that I'm less sincere because I said, you know, think of the books in your bookcase. You can love all the books you have in your bookcase and then value each individual book. That doesn't take away from any book because you got more than one book you like. You know, so, you know, I'm just a bookcase. That's all, you know. I love that now that I'm becoming more sane, I understand why I was so unhappy when I believed what the world taught me. It's like the world's thought system is set up to keep you feeling limited and afraid. It's like everything about it is about fear-mongering because the person that feels afraid is the person that's going to feel separate. And when you feel separate, you lose awareness of your oneness and your unity with God and with everybody else around you. So there's a part of us that needs to keep us feeling afraid in order to exist. That the ego part needs you to stay suspicious and afraid to stay separate. So the Course in Miracles is saying the concept of the self the world would teach is not the thing it appears to be. What does that mean? It just means that your concept of yourself, the concept of yourself that you learn from the world, it says was made to serve 2 purposes. So the concept of yourself that you have right now has 2 purposes. And you just recognize one of them. So everybody's made a concept of themselves. That's what the Course calls the ego. So I got an image of me, you have an image of yourself. But that image of yourself has 2 purposes. And you only recognize one purpose. The first purpose of making up your concept of yourself, the first purpose of your concept of yourself represents and presents the face of innocence. Like in other words, I'm going to make up an Earl that's totally innocent. It's the nice Earl, the one that is always being acted upon. See, I have an image of myself that something or somebody or something outside of me is doing something to me. So everyone makes up the image that you're this good person, this wonderful person. I thought you wouldn't have shot him if they hadn't messed with you first. I'm this good person that it looks like is being affected by everything and everybody outside of me. And then the Course in Miracles says, this space of innocence, which is the aspect of you that's acted on, it is this space that smiles, it's this space that charms, and it's this Earl, and it's this you that even seems to love. If you're reading along in the book, it says, this is the you that seems to love. So I'm charming, I'm smiling, I'm innocent, and it looks like things are being done to me. I'm being acted upon. And this nice me, it searches for companions. Match.com and other places that I'm going, hoping how many of you all go to social gatherings hoping you meet somebody? Most we all do. Even if it's just, I hope I meet a person that's a new friend.
That's right.
Or I hope I meet a person that, stop thinking, if you can, stop thinking in terms of romantic every time I say anything about relationships or connecting with people. Because you might be deceiving yourself right now that you don't do that. That you're not looking for somebody. You just know you're lying. But that's okay. You know what I'm saying? You know at the very least you hope you go to the party and somebody's friendly that you can connect with. We all do. So it's okay to admit that. You know. But this is a nice Earl. He says, it's the self that we make up. It smiles, it charms, it even seems to love. He says, oh, good God, I could be using my iPad. Thank God. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So much bigger. Good. All right, great. It's this face that smiles and charms and even seems to love. It searches for companions. And this is the self that looks at times with pity on suffering. You know, this is the you that will look at what's going on in Houston and all the other places. And you just, oh, I really hate the things that they're going through. It's the part of us that sometimes offers solace. I love the way it says that. It's the part of you that sometimes offers solace. Do you all have a face like I'm describing? The nice, goody you that really looks like it cares about what's going on, and you look with pity on what people are going through, and you charm, and you're charming, and you're innocent. And the Course says you can reduce this self-concept to being the you that thinks it's a good person in an evil world. I'm this really nice, loving person. And I'm in this world with all these issues and all these people who are not very kind. And but I'm the good one. So everybody makes a face like that. Even somebody that you would think of as being the most horrible person in the world will tell you they're being that way a lot of times because of what somebody else has done to them. And they would be nicer if it wasn't for that. So everybody makes an image of themselves, and everybody makes an image of themselves and think they're a very good person in a world that doesn't always seem like it's so good. So are there any questions or comments about what I've covered so far from A Course in Miracles that you don't have to believe, accept, or welcome?
Yeah, I got something to share real briefly. I don't offend anybody, but talking about yourself,
It's okay if you offend. It's okay if you offend.
I met this person yesterday named Jack, and from the chin on up, she was beautiful. I mean, and I was like, wow, she is just a beautiful woman, had the greatest voice. And I'm just like, wow, that's so cool. And from the chin on down, she was all guy. And you could really
Except from the chin down, she was a guy, but you didn't know it at first.
Well, I did because she did have stretch pants on.
Okay.
So it was pretty hard not to know. And I was just like,
Speak loud.
she had stretch pants on, so it was hard not to know that she was a guy.
Well, she was really happy to see you, huh?
And there was a part of me that went, you are Patrick, you're flirtatious, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And then she stands up, and I'm like, whoa. And there's a part of me that was just like, freak. I'm like, oh my God, I hope I didn't say too much. I'm just going to follow me home. I didn't mean any of that. I mean, it just was really surprising. It was so evident. My old self, or my self in the world, was at odds on how to deal with this person in a way that I want to be flirtatious, but I don't want to be that flirtatious because I like the top part of you, but I don't like the bottom part of you.
And how did you solve your dilemma?
Well, I just kind of was real. I put on my happy face.
You put on your hat.
How are you? And fortunately, it was amongst a bunch of people. So I mean,
I was thinking about the Course as if you're in a situation in which you have doubt and uncertainty. The first thing you ask of yourself is, what is the purpose? What do I want to come of this? And then you let that direct your actions. What was your purpose? What did you want to come of this?
Well, I don't know if it was my purpose was I just, I have a way of coming on to women that I feel I'm pretty flirtatious, and I enjoy it. I really like being flirtatious.
Okay.
Yeah. I get thrown a curve, and there's a part of me that goes, oh, danger.
You know why? That's the perfect. What you're talking about is a perfect example of what it just says. What you were reacting to your concept of yourself, your concepts that you learned, and the things that you learned about how you were supposed to react being a quote unquote man.
Yeah.
So that's what it's trying to tell us, that we have concepts of ourselves, and this concept of ourselves, we let it determine what we think about ourselves and how we should be affected by everything around us. Where, let's say I had a concept of myself that what I was looking at was another part of myself. That this was God, this was a divine being.
Right.
And that was the way I was looking at that person. Well, then that would totally change the way I would react and respond to however the body was. Because I would know that they're not their body. So therefore, it really doesn't matter what kind of genitalia they had, based on if I was really wanting to connect at a love level and at a spiritual level. But if I want to connect with you at a separate level, in the body level, in the world's concept of what we are as a man and woman level, then I'm going to have a different reaction similar to what you had. So that's right back to the main premise that is trying to get us to see that we are reacting to everything and everybody according to the learnings that we've gotten in the past that are not necessarily a reflection of who we really are. We study all the time, all these books that say we're one, we're connected, we're one being. We are one thing. But if you try to live that way in this world, you'll see really quick how much people are just saying that, but they don't believe it.
Right.
So immediately, if you see someone that has a different physiognomy, or they are dressed differently, or any of the things that you're saying, then all of a sudden that has a big effect on how you respond, because at that point, then you became Patrick the man. And then when you became Patrick the man, then all of a sudden this was a danger, danger, danger. But if you were Patrick, the divine spiritual being that was awake, knowing that that was a divine being in front of you and a spirit just like you, and that you were all one, then you would have had a completely different reaction, you know. So that's what the Course in Miracles is trying to get us to understand, is that we are constantly acting according to what we learned, but now we identify with what we learned so much that we think it's us. And so, did you ever hear that?
Yeah. I'm wondering, because you're talking about the teaching of the world and what the world has taught us and these concepts of ourselves, is it possible and ultimately, is it part of this goal to have the teaching of the world change to the truth, or is the teaching of the world always going to be dysfunctional?
The teaching of the world, as it's being defined in here, is always going to be dysfunctional.
Okay.
What's important is what you're teaching yourself.
Okay.
And what you're telling yourself.
Okay.
That's what made New Thought and the kind of stuff that we're doing challenging to people, because what it's doing is getting you out of the level of being totally unconscious and asleep. And so therefore we are being, in most cases, most people aren't people, they're sheeples.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're sheep. You know,
So
we're told what to wear, we're told what's right, we're told what's wrong, we're told how we should dress, we're told how we should act. You know, it's like we are constantly acting according to a description that's not based on who we really are. And the Course in Miracles would say that one idea is that you're separate from God, separate from each other.
So learning this stuff, you know, we're learning to see things a different way, and it's not possible for the world to come into this awareness collectively at a more surface level ever?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what I like is knowing what I can do now.
Yeah.
And what I can do now is change the way I look at myself. See, the biggest way to slow yourself down is to get caught up in when is the world going to do it. Well, the world is going to do it when you do it.
Well,
When you change, your perception of the world is going to change. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to turn on my TV and still see some of the stuff I see going on the TV that's happening in the world. It just means I'm going to look at it different, interpret it different, give it a different meaning, and react to it differently. That's what's going to happen, because the world was made to make us think we're separate from God and separate from each other. I mean, and it's worked. We do think we're separate from each other. We do think we're not necessarily connected as much as we should be. And then everybody looks for relationships that give them the love that they think is missing. Now, don't forget, you don't have to believe this. If you think what I'm saying is something that you got to immediately buy into and accept, it will keep you from hearing what I'm saying. So I'll keep on emphasizing again. I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm not saying you got to believe what I'm saying, and I'm not saying you have to accept what I'm saying. What I am saying is that the way you feel is coming from what you've learned and what you're telling yourself and what you are interpreting and judging. That's what's creating how you feel. You're in control of how you see things. And by you learning that you're the one that's in control of how you see things, and then being given another way to see things, then you will have another emotional response to your experience, which could be joy. But if I sit up here and I go, I'm going to wait till all of you agree with me and see things the way I see it before I'm happy, then I'll never be happy. And I don't know how to break it to you, it doesn't matter if you agree with me. Because that still has nothing, I'm going to get to you in just a second, no problem. That I'm still the one that's going to have to determine the concept of myself that I have. So that's the other thing that our ego does. It makes us believe that everyone must agree with us or say that we're right or the way we're looking at it is, before I'll use it, you got to say, Earl, I agree with what you're saying up there. And I'm saying, no, my freedom is based on me not caring at all whether or not you agree with what I'm saying. But me giving you the right to have your way of looking at things and me having the right to have my way of looking at things, because we both are going to experience the life that's based on that. So if you're happy with your experience and you're feeling peaceful and loving, then more power to you. I'm happy for you. But that may not be the way I need to see things in order for me to give myself joy. And so the challenge in the world is not that all of us want to be happy. It's the fact that we judge each other for the way that each one of us go about it. So my way of doing it is not the way you would do it, so you would condemn my way of doing it. That's the problem, is that we're in disagreement on the how, not the fact that all of us want to be happy. So if I'm not rooted in what I believe, then I'm going to need all of you to validate it and agree with me before I'll do it. And that's why I'm trying to convince you, because I need your validation. But a person that doesn't need your validation, they're going to be the easiest person to be around, because they're going to let you be exactly how you are, and they're going to be exactly how they are, and you all are going to have a peaceful time together. But if you're insecure, then you're going to have to try to convince me that the way I'm doing is wrong, that the way I'm doing doesn't work. Right? Not because it necessarily is, but because you are so insecure that you need everybody to agree with the way that you say you need to do things. And so this paragraph is trying to teach us that you are not a victim of your personality. You are not a victim of the way that you express yourself. That you are the one that is making it up. And you're making it up as you go along, and then you'll call it my personality. But it's really what you taught yourself.
One way that has really helped me look at this entire situation recently is like weather. That the human experience, to a certain extent, is like weather. Conditions mix at certain levels, and they are producing this vast variation of turbulent and lively behavior. And to the extent that we put these rules to work, we are allowed to escape from it. But individuals that are in different situations have been created by the actual turmoil, the actual movement, that and you then it's not easy, or it's not hard to sit there and not judge them. You have no idea what has produced them. You know, physical, biological, mental, emotional interaction. And we look at the weather and we're sitting there going, you know, one of these days we're going to be able to predict it. It's a maelstrom. It's actually quite amazing. And if you just enjoy it, I think that that's the best way, or most recently the way that I've started looking at it, and it's so much more easier. It's because the people that you might judge, how foolish. You have no idea what pressure they were made under, what affected their birth, their upbringing.
Okay, thank you. And that's what I'm saying, is that was just an example of what I'm talking about. What is making him feel peace? The way he's choosing to look at it. Those people are exactly the way they are for each one of us. But the way he's choosing to look at it is what's determining the peace that he's having right now. See, that's the gift. I think that if we could really get that the way that you're feeling is not coming from an exterior circumstance. It's coming from the interpretation that you're giving to anything that's happening to you right now.
So I can change my world, but I'm not responsible, and I'm going to let people be free to experience their worlds.
Right, because you want to be free to experience your world the way that you choose to. The only rule of a conscious being is that you're not going to do something that's purposely about harming or attacking or hurting. Yeah. But you wouldn't have to tell a loving person that. You don't have to tell somebody that's not loving in the first place that would be the way to go about the process. You know what I mean? It's like a loving being would know that you got a right to express yourself in a peaceful way without me trying to interfere or block that. As a matter of fact, I would just open myself up to being attracted and to attract those that share my purpose and my goal. They would be a lot more fun. But I used to spend a lot of time trying to get people that were different from me to kind of come around. Now it's just the opposite. It's like, no problem, you're free, I bless you, release you, and who are the people that want to join me in the purpose of being loving and peaceful and conscious? Because there's more of them than I could ever get around to in a lifetime. But if I don't believe I deserve to be happy, I'm going to put all my attention and all my thoughts about who I am and have ideas of myself that don't draw anything to me that's loving. So I'm saying to you that your concept of yourself is what's determining how you're interpreting everything that's happening. And we were just told you're leaving your real self out. And your real self is an unlimited spiritual being that's beyond the physical body, that transcends physical death. And right now you're having the experience of thinking you're a separate human being in the world, giving yourself the experience of being what appears to be separate and different, according to this. So you can either do it in a way that gives you love and joy, or you can do it in a way that you're going through fear and conflict. And if you think it's up to you on your own to do it all, you're going to be a person that's struggling right now. And the struggle is coming from your feeling separate from God, separate from source. If you knew you were connected to your source, you would not be afraid. If you knew you were connected to your source, you would know a way would be made for you. If you knew you were connected to your source, all the problems that you think you have would be gone. The real issue is your relationship with your Creator, your relationship to God, your relationship to source. That's the only problem, according to the Course in Miracles, that we have, is that we feel disconnected from our source. And a lot of that is because of what we were taught and what we learned in the past in terms of fearing our Creator and looking at ourselves as being sinful and guilty. And if you believe that about yourself, then you're going to create things in your life that validate that. So if you think you're guilty and bad, then you're going to have experiences that validate that. If you get that you're loved unconditionally and you're innocent, then your world's going to reflect that. And just because another person wants to believe that about themselves, that doesn't mean you have to. And that's why we're so loved, is that we can choose. Now, what we can choose between is already set. You're going to choose between love or fear, unity or separation. You're going to choose between thinking you're alone and on your own, or believing that you're connected to all that is and have the support of all that is. So wherever area in your life that you're most afraid, most worried, that's the area of your life that you're trying to handle on your own. Whatever part of your life right now you're afraid about, that's the area you are thinking it's up to you without connecting to your source. So the first thing you need to be working on is this sense of separation from that which created you. But your ego is going to want you to try to figure out all the stuff you need to do in the outer world to solve that problem. And that's the trick. Yeah, you may do some things in the outer world, but you're going to do those things in the outer world because you've been inwardly guided to do it. But unless you go within first and heal that connection to source, as soon as you get that situation handled, if you do, you're going to come up with the very next thing, and then the 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 next thing, and you're going to find that you never have a time that looks like you are free of problems and at peace. And that's because you're not dealing with the real cause of the problem, which is your relationship with God. However you define that word, whatever word you want to use. I like the word God because it plugs into that part of me that believes in something greater than my own ego that's created me. So you are loved beyond your wildest imagination. You're going to be supported no matter what. Your problem is, if I should be so presumptuous as to tell you, you're still trying to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. You still are trying to do it on your own. The Course in Miracles says an atheist is not a person that just says, I don't believe in God. It teaches that an atheist is a person who thinks they are alone. If you think you're on your own right now and doing it by yourself and you don't have support, you're an atheist. And that's still, you're cool, but you're just an atheist. And then he says the other is that you're a martyr. He says a martyr is a person that thinks that God demands sacrifice, that love demands sacrifice, that somehow or another, in order for you to be okay, you got to keep sacrificing your own happiness all the time. So you're one of these people that always thinks that putting yourself last and never allowing yourself to have what you want or what you love for everybody else somehow makes you a good person. And all it does is make you a person full of resentment. Mm-hmm. So you're not really doing anybody any favor by always putting yourself last, because you can't give people what you don't have. And if I don't have any peace, if I don't have any love, if I don't care about myself, I can't give you something I don't have. So you got a bunch of people in the world that's trying to love people who don't love themselves, and it never works out because they don't have anything to give. So they really just end up taking, getting, being insecure, making demands, never letting you be yourself. That's what happens when you're with people who are insecure and don't love themselves and believe that love is sacrifice. You can never do enough that they really feel loved and cared for. If you feel like you're always pouring a liquid down the bottom of this pit, because no matter how much whatever you do is never enough. They're still jealous, they're still insecure, because that's not something that you can feel. You can't make them feel complete, but they are complete. They just need to get rid of the blocks that keep them from recognizing they are complete. And then this is telling us, well, what are those blocks? And it says, well, I'll tell you what the block is. It's the concepts of yourself that you're building every minute of every day. It's what you're telling yourself about yourself all day long. That is your block, your idea and your image of yourself. And then the other promise is, if you allow yourself to get rid of those blocks with the guidance of your higher self, and you start to love yourself, it will look like the whole world changes to you. Which is going back to what you were saying. It wasn't that the world changed, you changed. Your way of looking at the world. So it's saying here that that next paragraph it says this. Okay, the face that we paint first, right? It's the face that says I'm a really good person in this really screwed up world. I just wish more people were like me. If more people were like me, the world would be a better place because I'm really nice. And then it says the next part of you says this aspect that thinks is very good in an evil world can grow angry because the world is wicked and unable to provide the love and shelter that innocence deserves. This is a horrible place because you all not treating me the way that I deserve to be treated. And so this space is often wet with tears at the injustices that the world accords to those who would be generous and good. I never make the first attack, but every day 100 little things make small assaults upon my innocence, provoking me to irritation and at last to open insult and abuse. I'm this really good person. I don't never hurt anybody first, and it looks like people are always doing little things to upset me all day long until I get irritated and I feel like I'm being insulted and abused. Anybody recognize that particular image?
Yes.
The face of innocence, your concept of self so proudly wears, can tolerate attack in self-defense. Because isn't it a well-known fact that the world deals harshly with defenseless innocence? Yeah, I'm going to attack you back when you attack me because I know that the world takes advantage of people who would be loving and who would be kind. I heard that so many times growing up, that if you're loving and kind, people are going to take advantage of you. That's what the world teaches you, that somehow or another, if you are loving, you are going to be hurt. That is the biggest lie that we were ever taught. If you're a person that thinks being loving is going to hurt you, then you're going to unconsciously or consciously seek out people in situations that seem to hurt you when you love them. But all they're doing is reflecting back to you the belief that you already have about what's going to happen if you're loving. So if I already believe that people are going to hurt me when I'm loving, then every time I'm loving, I will do it with someone that looks like they're going to hurt me. And I don't know that all I'm doing is fulfilling the prophecy of what's going to happen if I'm a loving person. So if you want to go to that new reality that we're talking about, you can't compare anything about your past to what you say you're trying to achieve. You can't go, okay, I'm going to be loving, but every time I've ever tried to be loving in the past, somebody has hurt me. No. You cannot bring the past into the present if you want to have a new experience. You can't interpret your present in past terms. You can't go, I'm ready to have a new life, but I'm going to still interpret everything the way the world taught me to interpret it and the way I interpreted it in the past, and you're going to continue to have the exact same experience you've always had. Just because you've always had relationships that didn't work out does not mean you're going to always have relationships that don't work out, unless you keep telling yourself, based on the past, I'm going to have more relationships that didn't work out. So I'm taking my past in the present and project it into my future, and I'm meeting it. Whenever you take your past and bring it into the present, you project it into your future and you meet it. Just because you never had prosperity and abundance in the past, you can't tell yourself you'll never have it in the future. Because if you do that, you're using your present moment, which is the point of power, and you're interpreting your present moment in past terms, and that projects it into the future, and then you meet it again. So you can't compare where you want to be to where you are if you want to have a new experience. I'll say that again. You cannot use your past experience as justification for what you're going to plan to do now if what you experienced in the past did not bring you peace. Just because you never had that experience in the past, do not tell yourself in the present that that's what's going to happen again in the future. Or you'll meet it again and then you'll say, see, I was right about that. No, you weren't right. You just saw the universal law work. What you focused on is what you perceived and created for yourself. That's universal law. So if I'm really trying to change my mind for a while, I'm not going to be around anybody that's going to be reinforcing what I'm trying to let go of. I'm sorry. I'm not ditching you. I'm not saying you're not, but you're not helping me achieve my goal. And I need to join with people who want to achieve the goal. Now, once I become rooted and strong in my new belief and in my new, I'll hang out with everybody. But while I'm trying to move away from an old habit and an old concept and an old way of looking at myself, I'm going to get away from those people who are in my experience, who are still reinforcing the old stuff that I want to let go of. Not as a condemnation of them at all, but I know that to move to the new, I've got to be with the new now.
That's right.
Okay, so what does that mean? If I want to see myself as an innocent, divine, unlimited being, I want to join with other people who want to see themselves as innocent, divine, unlimited beings, which means I might have to say no to some people in relationships that I used to say yes to without condemning them in the process. If I can't do that, then I have to ask myself, how sincere am I when it comes to wanting to have a new perception of who I am? Then that means I'm kidding around. I don't really mean it. Because the minute you're sincere, the universe will send you all kinds of support and people who will be with you in the new way that you want to go. That's the beauty. That's how you can always tell if you're sincere. If you're sincere, you're going to draw other people to you. You don't have to go out there and hunt them down. They're going to be sent to you. That's what the promise is. The minute you say you're ready to learn, the minute you really mean that you're ready to know how loving you are and how beautiful you are, I will send you the witnesses. But if you're kidding around and you're saying it and you don't really mean it, you can tell because you don't see it nowhere in your experience, which means you just need to get more sincere. That's all it means. You just need to get more sincere, which is great, which is awesome. Nothing is as hard as we make it. 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 The truth is simple. Simplicity, the Course says what? Is very difficult for twisted minds. It says the more twisted your thinking is, the harder it is for you to understand simple concepts. I want to be in relationships with people who want to be sane and peaceful. Okay, so if I'm with somebody that's judging, criticizing, and condemning, that means that I'm with the wrong person. Simple. Mm-hmm. If I want to be loving and not attack, then when I'm with you, I don't attack you. Simple. It's not complicated. It's only complicated if you're not ready to give it to yourself first. If you're not ready to give it to yourself, you're going to think of every reason why everything I've said will not work. And all I've said is you are unlimited, beautiful, and innocent, and you deserve to be loved, and you deserve to be happy. And anybody sitting up there debating with me about that, you have a serious issue. Why would you debate with the idea that you deserve to be happy? Why would you be suspicious of the person that says you deserve love? Only if you don't believe you do. That's why you're suspicious. Because I'm saying something about you that you don't think is true yourself, so I must be a liar. Deep. It's deep. I love this three-dimensional mirror that we're living in right now. It's awesome. It's awesome. So the Course in Miracles is telling us right now that I'm going to give you a brand new concept of yourself. I'm going to give you a brand new idea of yourself. And this is the idea that I'm going to give you. One idea. One idea. Is that simple?
Yeah.
Okay. The one idea that you want to allow yourself to begin to accept is, and it's going to be the toughest one of all because it's the opposite of what the world teaches us the most, which is you are innocent, sinless, and guiltless. That's the main one that the world is absolutely not for you believing, that you're completely innocent. Does that mean you don't make mistakes? No. Does that mean that you don't have misperceptions? No. Does it mean that you might not be less than loving? It's like saying, just because I wallowed in the dirt and I got dirt all over me, that there's not the real me under the dirt, that I couldn't wash the dirt off and there I am. So don't confuse yourself with the dirt. That's a whole new meaning of dirty thoughts, right? A dirty thought is a thought about yourself that's less than loving. And just because you believe it's true about you, it doesn't mean it's true. I'll say this. Just because you believe something is true doesn't make it true. Because you believe something is true doesn't make it true. Because in metaphysics and spirituality, you hear a lot about your beliefs make your reality. The truth is your beliefs make your perception of reality. Your beliefs make your perception and how you see things are based on your beliefs. But that does not mean that your belief is true. It just means you're seeing what you believe. And that's not necessarily what you are. How do you know it's not what you are, Rod? Well, the way you know it's not what you are is that it doesn't inspire you and it doesn't make you to feel and appreciate the love that you are. So anything that you're telling yourself that makes you heavier, makes your energy drop, that doesn't make you feel more expansive is a lie that you're telling yourself. And that's the beauty of it, is because if it's something that's making you feel bad, you know it's a lie because you know there's another way you could be looking at it. And the minute you look at it from a perspective of loving yourself, you know the most amazing thing's going to happen? You'll start hearing your own inner guide. You start to hear the Holy Spirit within yourself. You will start to hear the voice of love within you that's always been there, telling you how incredible you are and showing you how to recognize it, but you weren't hearing it because you were looking to the voice and listening to the voice that you were making up inside your own head. And so you have to learn how to tell the difference between when you're listening to your concept of yourself and when you're listening to yourself. And when you're listening to yourself, you feel free, happy, joyous, light, and loving. When you're listening to the lie about yourself, you feel guilty. And well, you ought to feel guilty. You know, it's good to feel guilt. No, whatever you feel guilty about, you're going to do it over and 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 over. How many times in your life have you felt guilty about something and went right ahead and did it again? Yeah. All of us have that experience. Feeling guilty does not make you stop doing something. It keeps you doing it. But if you say it's a mistake to attack you, it's a mistake to try to limit you, it's a mistake to try to treat you in a way that's not loving, my mind will not want to continue to do a mistake. No. People hate to make mistakes. So if you say seeing myself as lacking and seeing myself as not being loved is a mistake, your mind will immediately want to get away from that and correct that. But the minute you say you feel guilty, you don't do it again. Feeling guilty doesn't stop nothing. Oh, but why? Because the person thinks by feeling guilty that was the solution. So that's why I can go ahead and do it again. Because I already felt guilty about it, didn't I? I'm a good person and I felt guilty about it, didn't I? Well, therefore, I haven't had the punishment. I felt guilty, so I can go back and do it again. Addictions are based on the guilt that you feel, not the act that you're doing. People can't stop smoking because they feel guilty about it. And their separate self needs guilt to survive. The ego needs guilt to survive. The part of you that doesn't love you needs something to judge you for to survive. So it's going to make you do the thing that you're going to put yourself down about so that that limited part of you can continue to exist. So guilt doesn't solve anything. It just perpetuates the issue. Seeing it as a mistake that needs to be corrected is how you end it because the mind doesn't like mistakes. So the part of you that wants to keep you limited is having extreme difficulty listening to what I'm saying right now, and the part of you that's had enough is on the edge of your seat and is hanging on every word. I love you. I appreciate you for hearing this much with me today. Letting yourself hear that. Absolutely. Self-concept versus self. Self-concept versus self. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do financial expression of appreciation. Thank you for sharing with me as a full-time teacher. Thank you for sharing with Unity Tempo. And then I got a quick wrap-up that I'm going to do before we go out into the world. Those of you online, if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, just go to earlpurdy.com and you'll be able to do that. And I'm also available to work with you on a one-on-one so that you can have a clarity session with me so I can show you after 30 years. Matter of fact, tomorrow is my 30th anniversary of doing the Course in Miracles full time. It's been a long time. It is awesome. It is awesome. And I went home last week and I had so many miracles that I'm in a state of shock. So I'm kind of like the days right now. So this has been a kind of surreal class for me to teach. It's because I'm seeing the truth and the truth of what I'm teaching more than I've ever seen it before, and I thought I had seen it before. And what I'm always continually shocked at is all I had to do was do what I was told. And I thought it was about analyzing what I was told. Figuring it out. Stop trying to figure it out. You're being guided. Just do what your guidance is saying. Do. Anybody over here? You got it? Okay. So, those of you who like to do one-on-one, go to my website, earlpurdy.com, and there are literally hundreds of classes. I've videoed these classes for a long time, and I have hundreds of classes on YouTube and on my website, which you can see for free. Because the most important thing you can do is give it to yourself over and over and over and over and over. It's the repetition that makes the difference, not the analyzation. It's being willing to tell yourself the truth over and over again. I'm entitled to miracles. I am lovable. I am loved. I am loving. Even if you don't believe it. Do you know that something can be true even if you don't believe it? So if you can tell yourself you're the most loving being in the world, don't believe it about yourself at all, but it doesn't make it any less true.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's me saying, you know, I'm not a man, I'm not a man, I'm not a man at this level. I can say it all day long, but there's a concept of me as a man. It's there. So it doesn't matter if you're telling yourself you're no good, that you're not loved, that you're not enough. It has no truth to it, so go ahead. But that's just an image of yourself that you're making. It's not the truth about you. So, those of you online, y'all are awesome. So here we go. As a matter of fact, what Spirit just told me to do is to share some of the lessons from the workbook of the Course in Miracles. I have given everything I see, all the meaning that it has for me. I have given everything I see, all the meaning that it has for me. I would invite you to like get out of your heads and let yourself feel it. What you say, Reverend Yolanda? Oh, today is a brand new day. Look at life in a different way. So here's the saying. I am determined to see things differently. I am determined to see things. Anybody with me? I am determined to see things differently. I am determined to see what you say. I am determined to see things differently. 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 I choose love. I choose joy. I choose joy. God is. That's the same as saying love is. Love is. Now this is a deep one. I have invented the world I see. 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 There is another way of looking at the world. There is another way of looking at the world. There is another way of looking at the world. There is another way of looking at the world. I am blessed as a child of God. I am blessed as a child of God. Say what? I am blessed as a child of God. I am blessed as a child of God. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. I know you may be worried about something, but there's nothing to fear. I know you may be afraid about something, but tell yourself the truth right now. There is nothing to fear. I am sustained by the love of God. 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 I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. You are the light. Today is a brand new day. You can light in a different way. Is anybody glad to be alive in this place? said, anybody that's got some gratitude for life in this place, I know it must be a cult. I said, you deserve to be loved. That must mean it must be a cult. I said, you deserve to be happy and prosperous. I'm the most dangerous black man in America. I know that's true. God is. Okay, here's the toughest one of all. Ready? I deserve to be paid for having fun. I deserve to be paid for having fun. I deserve to be paid for. That's what your work should be in the world. I deserve to be paid for having fun. I now expect unexpected income. I now expect unexpected income. It's okay to receive, even on a material level, even on a physical level. It's okay. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for showing up today, Holy Spirit. Give it to you. Give it to you too. Don't forget. Mighty companions online. I love you. Don't forget, hugs are available. One, we're going to have a little announcement from Sheila right now too.
Oh, you gotta keep the music. For use. Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know at 2:30